whether it's draft, free agency, even your own roster, you're getting tons of data on every single player, right? Every metric you could possibly want, all their stats, all their measurements. How do you balance using that data when it may tell you to take this player or draft this player versus trusting your gut? Because you've seen a lot of football and you've seen the film and you know you should take this guy, but the data says he's not very good. How do you balance that? I got a big announcement. I just released my brand new resource for anyone trying to get recruited to play college football. Whether you're a player, the coach of a player, a parent of a player, this resource will help you learn everything you need to know to dominate the college football recruiting process. It's called the Get Coaches to Call Game Plan, and inside I'll reveal the secrets that top recruits use to make dynamic highlight videos and get in touch with coaches, and I'll give you a step-by-step guide for how to get coaches to notice you and reach out to you. The best part is that it's totally free. All I need is your name and your email. Check the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, right? I mean, I think the science of sport has changed so much. We had no analytics until 2012. Everything we had was binders with scouting reports. We had a very, very simple database, and the Ravens went full tilt into analytics. We hired people, we hired developers, we hired analysts. We organized our data, which was took 2 years for us to do that. We would have interns come in every night at 6 o'clock and spend 5 or 6 or 7 hours. And they were all college students pretty much from Hopkins and UMBC and various places. And they were just pulling out, text and basically coding these things. And we created a matrix so we could pull all this information out. But, for me, it's simple. There's a lot of things that we can do with data. For me, the idea is basically give me targets and help me make these picks. So the models that we use assessing college players, the models that we use to value free agents. And then the other thing I'm interested in is give me a sense for what this player's true worth, his financial worth truly is in free agency. Because what we see sometimes is a player might get a contract worth, say, $10 million, and our models might say, we think he's worth $4 million. On the other hand, so I stay away from those players. On the other hand, we might get situations when an agent might call me and say, are you interested in so-and-so? And I'll look at what our value is and I'll say, yeah, I'm interested. He says, well, we're getting offers for $3 million a year and our models are saying he's worth $7 or $8 million a year. Now my antenna's up. So there's a lot of things you can focus on with analytics and sports. And for me, it's what are the most important things we can spend our time on? One was building out our software, or organizing our data, and then 2, how do we find targets in the draft? How do we find targets in free agency that help me make decisions? Now, the coaching side is totally different. They're doing a lot of game day stuff, whether to go for it in this situation, to not go for it in this situation. Those guys, they do an amazing job too. But specifically in scouting, it's more about how do we find value in the draft and free agency? What are these players worth? And how do we acquire these guys? And the other aspect of it is just, especially around the draft, is with trades and things, how we look at draft picks, how we kind of figure out the value. What is the 47th pick in the draft worth in comparison to the 97th pick in the draft? Okay, you can go off the old Jimmy Johnson chart, but there are other ways of looking at that. So we've developed our own proprietary charts that we use that help us kind of get value. So there's a lot of things you can focus on. We kind of came down to what are the 2 or 3 things that we want to focus on, because otherwise you can kind of spend so much time on so many different things. We'd rather nail a few things than be working on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 things at one time, just because we don't have the manpower to really do that adequately. So we've got, on the scouting side, we've got 2 developers, 4 analysts. On the coaching side, they've got 3 analysts, and they hire some fellows every single year, 3 or 4 fellows.